Okay, so for part 5 on the back here, first we're talking about distance and midpoint. So it says graph triangle PQR with vertices P, Q, and R with those given coordinates on the coordinate plane. So we're going to graph 5, -2, that's P, and then we're going to graph 5, 2, that's Q, and then we're going to graph R, which is 1, 2. And we're going to connect those because it wanted us to make a triangle. Okay, so number 15 says find the length of each side of the triangle. Now don't overthink this, okay? The ones that are exactly horizontal and exactly vertical, the legs of this triangle, we can just count the boxes. This is 4 boxes or 4 units long, as is this one. So RQ equals 4. And QP equals 4. So now we just have to find RP. And in order to do that, we have to find the distance between 2 points. So we're going to use the distance formula. So square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. It does not matter which one you call x1 and x2 or y1 and y2 as long as the same point is 1 and 2. Like, for instance, I'm going to say that my point R is 1, so x1, y1. And I'm going to say that P is x2, y2. And I could label this on my coordinate plane, but I'm just going to go ahead and use them up here since they're already labeled. I'm going to plug in x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 5 minus 1 squared plus -2 minus 2 squared. 5 minus 1 is 4, squared is 16, and -2 minus 2 is -4 because this is the same thing as plus and negative, so -2 plus -2 would give us -4, but when you square any number, a negative times a negative is also a positive. So we get RP equals the square root of 32. Okay, now if you approximate that to the nearest tenth, we get 5.7. Okay. So if you look at number 16, it says fully classify the triangle. Well, if you look, this is a right angle because we have an exactly horizontal and exactly vertical line meeting there. So they are perpendicular. That is a right angle, so this is a right triangle. And we have a 4, a 4, and a 5.7 for the side lengths. Because 2 sides are the same, we are going to call this isosceles. Okay, so now, what are the endpoints of the median QM? Well, there's no M in our picture, but a median is a segment that goes from a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So, it says QM. If we start at Q, we have to go to the opposite side. We have to find the midpoint of the opposite side. So, we're going to find the midpoint of RP. How do you find the midpoint? The midpoint is just like finding the average to find the middle. So we are going to average the x's, so add them up, divide by 2, and we are going to average the y's and divide by 2, and that's going to give us a point. So if I'm looking at R and P, again, I'm going to go up here to my original problem here where it has the coordinates here, R and P. I'm just going to take the x's, 1 plus 5 divided by 2, and the y's, 2 plus negative 2 divided by 2. Well, 1 plus 5 is 6, divided by 2 is 3, and 2 plus negative 2 is 0, 0 divided by anything is 0. So the midpoint, which we are calling M because they said QM, is at 3, 0. So if you plotted that, you would see that it's right here, and this is the median of the triangle. Okay, number 6, or part 6, talking more about medians. It says that S is the centroid. And since S is the centroid, you know that this is a median, you know that this is a median, and you know that this is a median, because a centroid is where 3 medians intersect in the middle of a triangle. Okay, so with that said, it says S is the centroid of triangle DEF. EG is 36 and FD is 45. I'm going to start with this FD. So from F to D, this length of the segment here is 45. Now, the definition of a median says a segment that goes from a vertex to a midpoint. So G is a midpoint. It is halfway. So that means that this has to be 22.5 and this has to be 22.5. So FG is 22.5 and GD is 22.5. Okay, so now let's talk about the median, because they give us that EG, this one right here, this median is 36. That's the one that we're going to divide into thirds. So I'm going to take 36 and I'm going to divide it by 3 and I get 12. That means that that smaller piece, GS, is 12. And we know that the big piece is 2/3 of it, so we have to double that. So SE is 24. And if you added those together, you would get the full 36. Okay. So name 3 medians. We already talked about that when I first started this problem. The medians all meet at the centroid. They go from a vertex to a midpoint. Okay? Now in class I had you put H and I here. So the medians are FI, segment FI, it takes 2 letters, 2 points to name them, and DH and EG. The midpoints are the midpoints of the side. So a median goes from a vertex to a midpoint. So G is the midpoint of this side, I is the midpoint of this side, and H is the midpoint of this side. These are just single points. These are segments. Okay. Finally, part number 7, we are listing for number 19 the sides from shortest to longest. Okay? Short sides are across from small angles, and long sides are across from the largest angle. Okay? So, first we need to know what this other angle measure is. Well, if there are 180 degrees in a triangle, we take 180 minus 74 minus 48, we see that this is 58 degrees. Okay, so where's the smallest angle? The smallest angle is Y, so across from that gives us the shortest side, WX. Now what's the next smallest angle? 58. Across from the 58 is the next smallest side, which is XY. And then the largest, or the longest side is going to be across from the largest angle, which is 74. So then WY. Okay, now they're asking for the opposite. Now they want the angles from largest to smallest. That means we want the longest side to the shortest side. The longest side is the 8.6. That's across from angle E. That means it's the largest angle. The next is 8 across from angle D. And then the smallest or shortest side is 4 across from the smallest angle, F. Now, that is all we covered in this review, but I do want to remind you, you get to use your blue book And I would also recall what vertical angles are. Linear pair. What does adjacent mean? And then I would look at alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, and same side interior. Those are in Chapter 3, I think Section 3, Section 3.3. You might want to look in the index of your book, but it's in Section 3. It'll be in your note packet. There are 3 questions, I believe, on those types of angles.